this was served up sometime. I do way too many of these to keep track of when it was, but some caller asked, when is the last time one team in the nation had the best quarterback, wide receiver, running back? Well, my initial response was, who determines who's the best quarterback, who's the best running back, who's the best wide receiver? It's a rarity that you can definitely say he's the best and nobody's close to him. But where it's under consideration. So David's asking, hey, Ohio State's got the best quarterback, wide receiver, running back in the country. What do you guys think?
Well, I think running back's open to interpretation. I think Henderson's one of the top 4 or 6 running backs in the country. There's a lot of good ones. I think quarterback, it's between Stroud and Young. I think wide receiver, it's Jackson Smith-Njigba with his Rose Bowl performance. I don't think anybody living or dead has had had that kind of a game or that kind of an impact on a game. And without having to split the balls with Wilson and Olave, I mean, just what is going to be possible for him this year? He's going to break probably every Ohio State single season record for catches, yards, and touchdowns, I would think. He's going to break all 3 of those if he's healthy and if Stroud remains healthy. So I think he's top, and I don't even know who the other top receivers are, but I think Stroud and Smith-Njigba are in the top 2 at their position in the country, just as a guess. And then Henderson's in the top 6, but you got to play up to that level too to earn that. Alabama obviously has had years where they've had an All-American quarterback or an All-American running back and wide receiver at the same time. And I guess that's what you're aspiring to, is to have the first team All-American quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. Usually they pick 2 running backs and they pick 2 wide receivers for the first team. So, if you can get guys on that team, that first team, then you can lay claim to that. But it's all subjective. I mean, numbers wise, what's it all mean? But I'm interested to see how it all comes down, because I think they're going to push the envelope. I don't have any doubt about that.
I'm trying to think of, just in terms of Ohio State trios. You had 95 with Bobby Hoying and Eddie George and Terry Glenn, where Eddie George won the Heisman, Terry Glenn won the Biletnikoff. Bobby Hoying won did he win the Nerd Heisman in terms of the scholar?
Yes.
Whatever it was. It's changed its name a couple of times.
Yeah, George won the Heisman and everything else, and Terry Glenn was the Biletnikoff. So in that one year, you had the top running back and the top wide receiver on the same team.
2006 with Troy and Ted Ginn, even though he topped out at like 800 or 900 yards receiving, but Antonio Pittman was the starter there, so he wasn't the best in the nation, maybe the most underrated. I don't know what has your research told you, Mark? Did you look into it? Did you try to figure it out? If
I did not look into it, I started the question was brought to me overall in college football, and I started thinking of Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, and Mike Williams or Dwayne Jarrett on that team. Yeah. Just a couple of years ago, Mac Jones, Najee Harris, and Devontae Smith. You can make an argument there. There's been a few others. Who else popped up? We came up with a few others, but
LSU in 2019 has an argument maybe with Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, he wouldn't necessarily be the best running back, but yeah, in the vicinity. Yep.
I think I'm not going to be surprised if Travion Henderson ends up being the best running back, however you quantify that this year. I don't, 2019 you had Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins and Chris Olave. I mean, but that's still not,
Well, the subjectiveness is real because there's not, what is your measurement? And even using the national awards for winning the O'Brien and the Biletnikoff or whatever, those things are not always very accurate in terms of what we see there. Look at the Biletnikoff voting last year for top receiver, and neither of none of the 3 Ohio State receivers made it to the final round, the swimsuit competition or whatever of the Biletnikoff. So it goes to show that there's, what is your metric? Is it going to be for a quarterback? Is it going to be yardage or passing percentage or touchdowns or touchdown to interception ratio or wins? How do you determine all this? But to kind of echo Steve, I do agree that C.J. Stroud is probably among the top two at quarterback. Guys always end up emerging, and guys sometimes aren't able to hang tight the next year. Wide receiver, I have a hard time finding somebody better than Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think the one that I really kind of have my question mark about is going to be running back. But again, is that going to be a yardage award or whatever? I don't know. And some, better teams are going to have more depth, and you're not going to have to sit there and take as much tread off the tires of your running back. So, if you're an Ohio State fan, while you want to see Trevion Henderson put up big numbers, I don't think you want to see him playing into the fourth quarter of a lot of games. The goal is to sit there and have a very long season. And if you play 12 regular season games, a conference championship game, and 2 more games in the college football playoff, that's 15 games. So let's spread those carries out over 15 games rather than 12.
Yeah, the rushing champ, the wide receiver leader in terms of yardage, is typically not the best player. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Justin Ross come to mind as a bit of an argument.